Welcome to Kadam, the Small Steps podcast where we try to showcase individual perspectives of recent graduates about different pathways of life. I am Arjit Singh, and today I will continue to try to uncover what it means to have a traditional career. Thank you so much to those of you already listening and sharing. Let's continue to do that, not only because how much it means to me, but because I really believe this can be helpful to a wide variety of audiences. Please also keep some feedback coming. Let me know if there is something specific you would like to hear, or if there is something specific you think should come on the show. If you yourself think that you have some worthwhile experiences to share, drop us an email at kadamsmellsteps@gmail.com and we will be happy to chat and see if we can bring you on. For now, I can't wait to bring on today's guest and share our conversation with you. So let's start the show. Today I have with me Mihir Malik. Remember the name, because you might hear it on TV in a couple of years if you are an MMA fan. But Mihir isn't currently an MMA fighter. Actually, he's a full stack app and software developer for Healthwise Safe Inc. in Athens, Georgia. Before this, he's had 4 different internships and one other full-time job, all based on IT and the development and security of the internet world. MMA is an obsession for him, and so is debating. He's also done some stand-up comedy that he has some interesting things to share from. All in all, Mihir loves getting involved in a lot of different things, but believes that his future lies in either an MMA rink or behind computers or maybe both. He recently beat a local champion in Georgia by what he says was, quote, sheer stamina and knowledge, despite having a weight disadvantage, end quote. In his free time, he has been studying and learning more about harnessing the chemistry of our minds and the connection between science and religion. Without further ado, because I can't wait to get into these details, let's welcome Mihir Malik. Welcome to the show, Mihir, and thank you so much for coming on to
Yeah,
share your experiences. How are you?
thank you for having me. I'm good. I'm good.
All right. So I know you as a very diverse-minded individual. Your stories and your way of delivery has always been something that reel people in, and I'm very excited to see how we share this conversation. So let's jump right in and start off by talking a little bit about why and how you chose the MMA and computer science, because those are 2 very different fields without a doubt, but I'm sure there's a connection. And if you had to draw some, what would that be? And why and how did both interest you in their own ways as well?
So, at its core, computer science and MMA are both problem-solving activities. You're presented with a problem in computer science, being uh, communicating with a computer in a systematic way to solve the exact problem that you want solved. Every situation in life that you have is kind of like a problem, right? Like you can have parameters and you can have outcomes. And MMA is pretty much that. It's the game of centimeters, where like it's like you have to be very precise or things can get bad, the real world consequences to it. So I feel like the mindset translates pretty well.
Yeah, no, that definitely. I mean, with the consequences from an MMA rink, I think those are some of the most prominent ones that you can probably, see in life. So
For sure.
definitely, and it's not just you who kind of is able to see those. It's other people as well. You know, a lot of times it's even if it's just a mental stress or something like that from the MMA rink, it can definitely translate into other aspects of life. So
Mhm.
a few things that you've had solid plans about are being able to pay rent and feed yourself and MMA since 2010. If you don't mind
Yeah.
sharing, what took you till now to get into the fighting part of things in the USA till recently, and why didn't you get into it sooner? Also, why haven't you had any actual professional training?
Okay. So to clear things out, I've trained at 3 professional MMA gyms, and I've had 3 amateur boxing matches, and um, I've been into boxing since I was 15, but I learned boxing at an MMA gym coincidentally. And initially, like I got in with the idea of becoming a boxer because just I come from the state of Haryana, and Haryana has like a reputation of creating these athletes, and um, I don't know, I found inspiration in that for some reason. And I had the idea of boxing, and as I saw MMA evolve, funny enough, the place where I trained in Singapore, its name was Evolve MMA. But as MMA evolved into a more diverse and practical martial art, I felt like it was the most elegant problem that I've seen out there. Like, I have the mind of a computer scientist, but I always aspire, like, I feel from all the stuff that I've learned and I've thought about over time, that MMA is the most suited for the mindset that I have. Like, it's something that I do almost subconsciously because it's just like the most optimal way to do a certain thing, you know?
And could you elaborate on that a little bit?
So in MMA, you're trying to kind of observe your environment, take in all the possibilities, and act in the most efficient manner. The most efficient manner of dispatching your opponent, the most efficient manner of like preserving your health. Like basically, two men go in, one man comes out, and it's like this. You want to be taking the least amount of risk and getting the most uh, output. And I feel like that's something. It's almost like this. It's like chess, but with bodies, you know. And computer science and this aspect of like solving a problem in like in computer science there is a problem and a solution and multiple ways to get to it, and the same thing applies to MMA, you know. Like it's like um I mean, I've had a lot of martial arts training as I grew up, but overall I also have always kind of admired martial artists, and that created this kind of mental obsession in my mind. Like I saw it as this. Uh, it's like gladiators in the modern day. You know, like there is nothing equivalent to the competition between men where they men and women. No, but funny thing, for a very long time, women were not allowed to fight in the UFC because
That's
a
crazy.
lot of people just thought that women shouldn't be fighting, and then at some point women started fighting so well that the UFC had to add a female roster because of the amount of popularity that like and that's what MMA is about. MMA is the reason why that kind of change happened in MMA, and the reason why I'm so obsessed with MMA is it's about being undeniable. Like it's not just beating your opponent, it's beating your opponent in a manner that is like explaining that you are that much better. Because if you just beat someone by like a small margin, you're essentially setting up, if you want to make like a serious attempt at MMA, you want to go in with the idea of trying to become the absolute best. And I feel like the fact that there is like a very elite small group of people who are willing to put their bodies on the line and kind of almost announce themselves as undeniable. Like, I will become the most undeniable man on the planet in terms of combat with all that God gave me, my body, is like it's something of like it's like primal. There's humans evolved out of combat, and I feel like that's just something that has kind of as an instinct really activated my creativity, you know.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people might get into just the uh, initial stages of either MMA or Taekwondo or other different different things. I know that a
Which
couple
I
of
think
my
is
cousins.
really healthy.
Yeah, I think it's healthy, but I know that only a few of them actually go to the end. Like you mentioned, it's only a few of those elite people that actually want to put their bodies online. Whether that is the
Yeah.
competitive spirit or just, being able to say that they're either the strongest person in a certain group that they're fighting or anything like that, or it is something that they want to prove to somebody or themselves. I'm not quite exactly sure if that's definable, because I think that can be different for everybody. And so I think that's definitely something that is a case to case basis. It's
So
not
just to kind of give perspective to that, it's like MMA is about this moment. Every man wants to captivate a moment in MMA. It's like when two men compete and they continue competing against, and or women, when two fighters compete and they continue competing against different people who are undeniable, there's this like ladder that you climb, and there is somewhat of this like mindset that you need to have to be able to climb that ladder enough that it's really worth climbing. Because think about it this way: you don't want to climb every ladder in your life that comes by, because that doesn't make sense, right? But you want to climb the ladders that get you where you want to go. And that's what MMA is like. If you really want it, if you feel from the core of your heart that this is something that you want to throw onto the world and announce, like, I am this person who is willing to challenge anyone and beat everyone, like that's somewhat of a mindset. And I feel like I've kind of like that's what every fighter at the elite level has. That's what you need to have if you want to be risking your life, because if you go in there thinking like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm okay, that 1 second of self-doubt can mean long-term damage, like
100%.
on the
Yeah.
line.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's and I think that goes again in a lot of different things in a lot of different fields, but it's more prominent, I think, in something that you're putting your body on the line with. It's like, again, like you said, like the gladiators are going to war in the past as well. 1 second or one little hiccup of thinking of something else can have severe long-term effects. And so that's something that definitely needs to be trained. It's not something that you always are born with or something like that. I think it's definitely something that people train, being able to concentrate on some of those things that they're not going to be diverted from when they're inside there trying to survive and trying to win, of course. So, Mihir, do you ever think of the negatives, the repercussions of being in the MMA or spending all this time prepping for it? How does it prepare you mentally for the tougher times? What about family and societal views? And you also got married not too long ago. So, what about your wife and your future plans together?
All right. So as a sport, mixed martial arts, any kind of martial arts, is very healthy to practice. You're not taking any risks. You're not going around whacking people's heads with no protection on. You're in controlled competitions with people who are working to improve just like you. And it's this very elegant social interaction where you are agreeing with someone that I'm going to attempt to hurt you, but only slightly, so that you can figure out how you could get hurt. And I feel like the most focused upon thing when you're learning this is defense. So when I'm putting my body on the line, I'm putting my body on the line with the idea of defense being my highest priority. And that's the way martial arts are taught. It's self-defense. It's not how to dismember a man with your fists. It is literally like how to protect yourself. And if you are able to protect yourself in a way that represents the truest potential of you, then you can't be beaten.
Yeah, that's
And
half the battle won.
yeah, and if you do get beat, it's like there's an exponential risk that comes in MMA with each loss. So if you lose a lot and you can't kind of figure out why you're losing, it's straightforward. You leave. That's what everyone does. That's why people retire, and they have careers behind MMA. They have careers ahead of MMA, and this is like a sport. It's like the Olympics. It's like badminton. It's like tennis. It's anything. Uh, in those sports, also you can get injuries. In those sports, also you're investing a certain amount of time, but a large percentage of athletes in MMA actually come out of their careers with kind of positive outcomes on life, a good amount of money. Like basically, I'm saying at this moment, my physical capabilities are the most capable of earning me a certain amount of recognition for what I'm truly good at. Like I'm good at many things. I'm bragging over here, but
Hey, a man of
I'm
all trades, right?
yeah,
Jack of all trades.
like when you live a life that's like not at one exact location following the one exact same, and there are some unfortunate people who have a life where they are born somewhere and they die there, and
Hmm.
it's like your life is very limited. And I feel like I've been fortunate enough that I have gone to a lot of places, and I see that like life is only if you meet enough people and you learn enough things, that life is only worth living if you're doing what you want to do. Because if you're not doing what you want to do, then you slowly become miserable. And I feel like that's just a mindset that I have. That's an opinion, but I've seen it. Like a lot of people are going through life in survival mode, and they're continuously intaking large amounts of mental and physical stress that they kind of accrue on themselves as even sometimes as a reward. Like they'll not work out. This is what I'm about. Okay, 100% authenticity. And MMA rewards 100% authenticity, because when you're authentically yourself, you get into this state called flow. Flow is when you are only acting upon experiences that you have and not really thinking about what you're doing. And in that state, it's actually a term that is kind of like um, very popular in the psychology community, and scientists are researching this state of mind. It's basically our brain is made up of multiple kinds of waves that have nerve signal patterns. So nerve signal patterns have um, alpha, beta, and delta waves, as far as I know. And these are related to different states of your mind. So as soon as you wake up, you're in an empathetic state where your mind is very absorbent to information, very suggestible. And this state of mind is very ideal for learning. And in the same way, there is a beta state where your brain is kind of in a state of thinking constantly, where it's called your default mode network, and it creates your ego, which is basically like all the thoughts that you're constantly thinking about the world that occupy your perception and occupy your thinking capability on the exact task that you're doing. And so fighting is about getting into that state where it's almost like a trance. Like when you go into a fight, you you forget what happened. You just kind of like wake up after it almost. And it's this like the more authentic that you are, the more you're willing to just be yourself and not really think about what you're doing, but rather just let your training take over and go in a state of like pure instinct. Like that's rewarded in martial arts, and I feel like that's something that I've developed over time by having a variety of experiences.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Mir. And thank you for mentioning the alpha, beta, and delta waves. I think that's something that I'm going to definitely do some more research on. And one of the ones that you mentioned, the beta waves. Sorry, if you want to say it.
Something,
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
something to recommend. There's this scientist called Jim Quick, I believe that's his name. He was recently on the Flagrant 2 podcast of Andrew Schulz. And I think he talks about a lot of brain hacks and brain chemistry things that I feel like should be regular knowledge, but people just aren't teaching it to us because, in a way, society doesn't want to reward us taking care of ourselves. Society wants to reward our actions. And spending a good amount of time taking care of yourself and sharpening the axe before you do something is like all successful people kind of focus on this thing, because success in life only comes from escalatingly getting better at what you think you're good at, and Jim Quick in that podcast outlines things beautifully. I mean, there's other stuff also, but that's like
Yeah,
highly
no,
recommended.
I'll definitely put that in that link in the description for anybody to follow. And going off of that, who would you say are your role models? Anyone or anything in particular that you follow or look up to? And if there is any books or other media that you recommend other than this podcast, what would that be?
So I feel like I can't really call any single person a role model, because I have lived life seeing so many people who inspire me in so many ways that, like, it's almost unfair to select like one person. We Einstein said we stand on the shoulders of giants. The world that we have been gifted is tremendously fruitful, and I feel like I'm just full of gratitude for like all the great things that science and art have kind of given to our generation. Like I don't have, I mean, if I were to make a list and there was like some order, would there be one person like first? I don't know, I can't really decide it,
And
but
that's fine. Yeah, that's definitely fine. But if there's something that you think people can benefit from, that could be, if there's a podcast that you listen to every day, if that's something you do on your way to work or something like that, then that's something that I think somebody can benefit from. And you can
so
talk about mentors as well.
um in terms of podcasts that expand your knowledge, uh, I kind of listen to like the most popular podcast in the world, the Joe Rogan Experience. He has very real discussions with a lot of experts, and they kind of teach me a lot of things about the world. And I feel like it's something that people should definitely check out, but it's not a regular show. I would put a disclaimer that there is some highly controversial, extremely crazy stuff that happens over there, and a lot of it is comedy.
Yeah,
It's a
no.
comedy podcast
Yeah,
basically.
no, I think Tim Ferriss is a little bit like that in terms of um,
Yeah, Tim
um,
Ferriss,
talking
absolutely.
about controversial things, and whether that is mind stimulants or other things that people just definitely go against. I think Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss are up there, doing those things and having those conversations with the best in the industry. So definitely some people to look at.
I feel like the reason why comedy is such a big thing, even back in like the medieval days, there was a jester in a court. It's because comedy is kind of like our acceptance of insanity. Like we are willing to hypothetically think about stuff that no one else is willing to think about. And somehow people relate to it. That's what comedy is about. It's about that gotcha moment. Like it's like you can say the craziest stuff as long as, like, without meaning it, as long as it gets people to think in a certain way. Like if we wouldn't have comedy, then we would be afraid to think outside the regular terms of life. And like the fact that someone can think outside the regular terms of life allows our life to kind of expand. Because once there are two perspectives on something, it can lead to four, and it can lead to eight, and like it just multiplies, like the ways you can look at something. And you never know that you're doing something in the most optimal way. So like comedy is kind of like, that's why comedy kind of inspires me to fight.
That's amazing. Comedy inspiring you to fight. Being in an MMA ring, I don't think there's a lot of people that would relate that to comedy, but Mihir, you're
There,
different. So
there is something comedy like about fighting. Like it's almost like everyone knows that no one is the best in the world. Okay. Every person can agree that at this moment, maybe I could beat someone, but there's someone who could beat me, and there's someone who can beat that someone. And there's always someone who can beat whoever there is. But you declare, when you fight someone, you declare that I am, no matter what anyone says, I'm better than you. Because that's what victory is about. It's not about like just it's not about just getting something. It's about deserving it.
yeah, that definitely speaks volumes. I don't think people appreciate like their hard work, because sometimes it's if they're not getting the results, they're thinking that they're not deserving. A lot of times they are, but again, life works in mysterious ways. So definitely something to think about. Mihir, let's get back a little bit to computer science and talk about
For sure.
how you again chose computer science and how you plan to either get back into that or take that along. I know right now you're working for a firm doing that and also training MMA on the side. So, what do you think your life is going to comprise of, let's say 5, 10 years from now? Because I know an MMA fighter usually hits their peak. Some people say between 22 and 27, and then others say between 27 and 32. What do you think about that?
I feel like every body is different, every fighting style is different, every person's life is different. So, like, I personally believe that I am far from my peak. And I also believe that I physically, since I've not taken any significant damage that a lot of young fighters take, and also because I have maintained my health. Like, Arjit, you've seen me in the worst time of my life. And even then, I wasn't like inactive, like you could agree to that, right?
Yeah, no,
And
you're one of those people that would walk to campus. Everybody else would be taking a bus, and we could see you walking. So definitely not a
so
person that
I've,
we won't call active.
because my dad was in the Indian Air Force and he was kind of like obsessed with physical fitness, I have constantly kept my health on a level where I can kind of be close to competing at any time. Even in Auburn, I was part of the MMA team for a short period of time before I left for college. But like I don't know if you remember Ariz, but I was there in the Taekwondo team, and honestly, like I have not fought much, and I was able to do pretty okay against them. And like that shows that like I have the acumen, I have the physical kind of hard work that I've put in to be able to fight. I've always been training like as if my body should be ready to fight. When people are in the military, they kind of believe in physical fitness very seriously, because uh, I wasn't just living the life of an Indian, I was living the life of an Indian soldier. And like he wakes up every day, he tells me to get up, he tells me to work out, he tells me if I'm getting out of shape. And like I feel like, well, I feel like I'm talking about this too much. Let's get back to computer science. All right. Computer science is the most flexible job that you can have, because you're essentially saying, I'll solve your problem for you. And in a way, you can solve anyone's problem from anywhere. It doesn't matter. Your services aren't required on the site. It's computer science is almost like the publishing of a solution for money. And I feel like that is just something that is at the apex of human capabilities right now. Like people who get into computer, I know like people who get into medicine are rewarded more because they're saving lives, and people who get into law are rewarded more because they're saving money. But people who get into computer science are rewarded for thinking more. And I feel like I think a lot. So computer science isn't something that I'm going to set aside for MMA. MMA isn't something that I'm going to set aside for computer science, because your body can't take training all day. That's which is related to fighters in their primes. Uh, a lot of fighters do really well and then retire very early because your body has these things called telomeres. And telomeres are basically an end encryption of DNA on each DNA strand that tells your DNA to where its end is. And these shorten over time with each subsequent division of your cells. So if you take a lot of physical stress and damage, it causes these cells to die and need to replace themselves. And a lot of activities speed up the process of your cells dying. Funnily enough, breathing air speeds up that process. Oxygen itself is oxidation, which is oxidative stress. And that's actually one of the reasons why human beings can't live forever, because literally oxygen is forcing all your cells to constantly replace themselves, because the process of oxygen bonding with anything makes it die. And telomeres are another thing that I'm kind of obsessed with, but that kind of explains why computer science and MMA work together, because like it's like I'm not stressing my body to the point where I get decimated and incapable of living the rest of my life. It's about the most efficient lifestyle that a man can live while maintaining his physical health. And the more you maintain your health, the longer you're kind of living. So in a way, I'm using MMA as like a supplement to computer science. If I'm healthy, if I'm creative, which is a requirement of MMA, then I'm able to use that creativity to create programs.
Yes, Mihir, definitely. I understand how those can work together, and I think going off of that, here's something that I don't know if you've thought about this, but I feel like going in the future, you're probably going to have this conversation with either a boss or somebody
Yeah.
else or the HR team where you're working. How do you explain to them that you need, let's say, the 2 or 3 hours of a day doing the training that you need to do before one of your matches? How do you do that?
So training is the responsibility of the fighter, and you can't give any reason to not train. And the same way, work is the responsibility of an employee. I can't give any reason to not work. So it is my responsibility as an individual with agency and the ability to manage his time to make sure that I have time for both these things. And it's a calculated process, it's like a computer science program. You have certain inputs and you have to get a certain output, and you're trying to do the most efficient manner of things to do that. Anyone could be addicted, as I was kind of talking about before. People get addicted to all sorts of stuff. People are addicted to Netflix. It's 2020. People are addicted to dopamine on their phones. I am
2021.
no, I mean 2020, like Netflix kind of like boomed the
Okay.
hell in 2020 because everyone's
Right.
at home and they're like, what should I do?
Definitely, yeah.
So, but like, there's a lot of things that people can do in their free time. I choose to create my free time into another career. And I feel like that's what all entrepreneurs do. They apply their capabilities in the amounts of times that they can apply those capabilities in different areas and kind of grow businesses out of it. Me doing MMA is like me being an entrepreneur, growing a business out of the resources that I have, which is a well maintained physical state, you know?
Yeah, and just thinking about that and boundaries, how do you personally balance your personal and professional life or time? And with so much that's going on, so training for the MMA, doing your full-time computer science job, how do you set boundaries or timelines? Do you ever say no to people? And this can be for leisure or for work that they might ask from you. So it can be, co-curricular, something that you're doing for somebody out of your regular work, or it can be going to dinner with somebody. How do you find yourself making those boundaries?
Okay, that's a pretty cool question because I feel like that's the key, you know? Like if you want to do something that you really want to do, I believe that we are given a certain amount of resources and we're told, go ahead, do what you want to do. And it's up to us how we do those things, you know? Like people can teach you whatever, but in the end, everyone knows you do what you want to do, right? And I feel like to get this balance, I have to be doing only the things that are required of me. So I really have researched into dopamine. Dopamine is a hormone that our brain produces as a reward in anticipation of something that the brain thinks is good. And I have kind of seen our society deal with a lot of dopamine addiction in different ways. It could be the ding on your phone, it could be the taste of alcohol, it could be the anything, you know. And I feel like I have drained all the dopamine out of my system and created this singular mindset that I am only focusing on work. At the time of work, I'm using work as an avenue of constantly improving ideas. Like computer science isn't about coming in every day and kind of just giving certain hours. An organization has a task that they want completed, and as long as you are able to spend your time creating a solution for that task, uh, it doesn't matter if you put in just 2 hours a week or you put in 40 hours a week, you know, like especially when you're in software design. I know like there's QA and there's like different kinds of data related jobs that require your presence at all times, and it's more about like monitoring and all that. But computer science for software design is a job that you can do as long as you're able to think of the solution of the problems that arise. And after that, it's up to you how you spend your time. And I feel like I use the rest of my time at work to improve my skills and improve my capabilities. And that will eventually reward me in life ahead. But even my own employer rewards this activity because he sees his employee as a more capable individual to be solving the problems that are coming up in the workplace. So this kind of aligns with the MMA, you know, like when I'm training MMA, I'm using my body, but my brain is completely free to think of solutions. And in a way, when you're in an environment where you're forced to, at the click of a moment, think of a solution to a problem that you're in. Oh, there's this larger individual in front of me who's trying to hit me with the right hand. How should I deal with this? And you kind of immediately see all the parameters that you have. I could swerve away from it. I could duck it. I could tap his hand away. I could slip it one way. I could move out of range for it. And you pick the most optimal one instantly and go to the next state, which is the next step of the solution. And when you train to do that, you're able to do the same thing in computer science in a way that makes you more efficient, you know. And I'm just like hitting this step by step.
Yeah, no, problem solving and finding the right solutions or solutions. I think I don't know if there are right solutions always, but finding
Right.
solutions,
Yeah.
is part of life, and I think everybody does that to a great extent during their lives. And thinking about some of the toughest times that people go through their lives, I want to ask you that as well. So what has been some of the toughest time for you up until now, and how did you overcome it?
So I like to think that my life was very fortunate. I have lived very comfortably, and all the toughness that I've faced is toughness that I've brought upon myself. I want to just start off by saying this. But when I was really young, I kind of got addicted to food. This might sound funny, but it was just my brain was hardwired from my activities in such a way that I would just eat so much food that I didn't know what I was doing to myself. Like when I was in third grade, I was 60 kilos, which is 120 pounds, and I wasn't that tall. So it was like, who's this hippopotamus, And like, in a way, that food addiction created a lot of problems in my life where I became unhealthy and then I had to lose insane amounts of weight and really get back in shape. And learning how to kind of create a discipline to keep moving away from an unhealthy lifestyle is what has kind of molded me into the kind of individual I am today. So I was, when I went to Auburn University, people say freshman 15, I had the freshman 40. I came to America and my food addiction habit was off the charts. We were given a card and it was like, you can eat insane amounts of food for basically no money. Here's a card. If you don't finish this money by the end of the semester, then it'll just disappear. Okay. And so my Indian
That's
mind
crazy.
was like,
That was definitely crazy, man.
so my Indian mind was like, now I have to eat all this food. Okay. Like I was like, there is no way that I don't absorb every single cent with maximum value out of this card of money because it's going to disappear. Right.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I think we all had that. I have never gained weight in my life, and that was one time in my life that I actually saw myself gain weight. And it was crazy, man. It was
So
crazy.
that with that, so that was like the infinity gauntlet for like food, man. Like I was like Thanos, but with, instead of power I had food, and I had infinite food. And I got so fat that I was playing football one day, and you weren't there, but Kapish was there, and we were just playing around, and it had just rained, and there was this puddle right next to the goalpost, and it looked like, just like, when you play football next to the goalpost, most of the action happens, so the grass over there gets worn out. But it was actually a really deep pit of mud, loose mud, and I thought that it was just hard, flat ground, and I stepped into it, and I went like calf deep. And reflexively, because I was chasing the ball, I tried to keep going after the ball, and I heard like three pops, and my knee was gone. I completely tore my ACL, completely tore my MCL, partially damaged my meniscus, and I was on like I the moment it happened, Kapish was like, "Nahi, bro, you're okay. Come on, get up, get up." Like when we play and you get injured, it's like just walk it off. And I was like, "Nahi, bro, ho
Yeah,
gaya."
definitely. Oh,
Chal.
that
And like Kapish like carried me on his shoulder, and I was walking to the car. And funny story, my younger brother has actually also had like knee injuries, so it actually quite possibly might be like a genetic family thing where we just have like a weak knee. But because my dad also had like knee issues, but that was, he said, because in the Air Force they made you jump from like really high like helicopters and like training drills, and
mhm.
he was like, it just got, but I feel like it's just like a genetic thing, and that's what MMA is about. everyone's given certain genetic disadvantages, but they're also given certain genetic advantages. And it's your responsibility to identify those advantages, areas in which you're different from the people in front of you, and use those differences in a way that those people can't find a solution to, you know? But so I tore everything, and I got an experimental surgery done to me in Gurgaon at Artemis Hospital, which was called an inside ACL surgery. It was like new in India. I was very fortunate. The Indian Air Force gives you 100% coverage for like any medical expenses for you and your family. And I'm fortunate enough to be the son of an Air Force officer.
That's great.
So
Yeah.
I got this huge surgery for free, and they reconstructed many. And that's what I'm saying. The only problems that have come to me in my life have been problems I've created for myself, because life has been very fortunate for me. But I basically had no knee for like a year. Like I was on crutches with a cast, and all I thought in my mind was like, this is the end of my career. This is the end of my career. This is the end of like my MMA dreams. And for some reason, the obsession of I won't let that happen. I won't let one injury stop me from having this career. I have really kind of gone next level on this, using all sorts of science to kind of improve my health and compensate for this injury. But definitely after that 1 year, just this fear of like every time you step, your knee is like, I might flip today. Getting out from there to this point in my life has been the craziest experience of my life, and it was painful, but I'm happy to be here.
All right. So interesting story, me here. Not in terms of funny, interesting, or good, interesting, but definitely interesting. Going from a football field to an MMA mindset to thinking of how you're going to get back into your dreams and your aspirations of becoming a great MMA fighter. So in the time after when that happened, and or while going through it, what new or old belief would you say you developed? And that could be a belief or a behavior or a habit. And how have you followed that? And how has it most improved your life? And that doesn't have to be directly related to the injury, but it could just be anything.
So, two things. Uh, First, I feel like in a way, I scientifically started exploring the concept of religion. And this mindset came to me from my childhood, which is the second thing, which was I wanted to return to the mindset of me in my most innocent form. Because think about it. Think about a point in your life that I'm pretty sure you can remember where your mindset was void of any desires. All you really thought about was the next day and how you could make it better. And slowly along life came all these things, the desire to have a girlfriend, the desire to have good food, the desire. When you were a kid, you didn't want good food. Everyone was like, eat, and you were like, give me whatever I like and leave me alone. And like now your life is completely contained in all these desires that you accumulate. Oh, I see this thing, I want it. I want a gold watch, I want a nice tie, I want a Lamborghini, I want a Bugatti, I want a mansion, I want my children to have the most comfortable life in the world. And I feel like all these things, they occupy your mind. And being injured made me want to return to a state of mind where all I think about is making my life better, and it doesn't matter how I do it. And there's a lot of things that we do as a child that really make us capable of learning faster and being the best version of ourselves. As life goes on, we tend to say, oh, I got old, oh, I became like tired, like I got tired of this, I got tired of that. I feel like that mindset comes from letting all these weird desires that the world wants you to have kind of accumulate in your mind and kind of cloud up your real goal, because people achieve goals. That's the truth. The truth is, there are people out there with way worse circumstances who are doing way better. Every human knows this. Elon Musk knows that there's someone who's doing better than him. Jeff Bezos is going to get richer than him. Jeff Bezos knows at some point Elon Musk is going to take over him. These two guys are right now the most richest men in the world. They know that someone's going to come up a few years later with a concept that's going to be much more important than their concepts and become much richer than them. And I feel like the reason why they're able to stay in this competitive state is because they think about only what is important. They don't have time to be old. They don't have time to be tired. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to stay young and get back to the mindset of me when it was just nothing but work, you know?
Yeah, I think it comes off of being a child and being happy in the moment again. Like you mentioned earlier about being happy in the moment or being in the moment, being an MMA fighter too. I think that's something that a lot of us are trying to get to. And that is one question that I've tried to ask, everybody, or I'm going to try to ask everybody this season is how happy you are doing what you do, and how do you plan to keep taking that forward?
Bro, when I'm training, when I'm moving toward fighting, it's absurd. I like grin all the time. I'll be just thinking about stuff, and gratitude like goes over my brain. Like it's just like I'm the happiest person I know right now. That's like, I might be bragging, but I feel like doing what you really want to do and feeling like you're doing well in it is what makes people really feel like their life is worth something. And I feel like my life is worth something because I have a purpose. I feel this purpose. I live this purpose. I think, dream, and work for only this purpose. And while I'm doing it, my mind is free. Like I'm the happiest person in the world right now.
Yeah, that's incredible. Definitely something that a lot of us, again, are trying to get to. And I'm not sure how easy it is for everybody to find that, but when they do, I think it makes the difference. I think that's something I truly believe in. Your day could be bad, your work life could not be great, it could be whatever, but if you're doing that, if you're taking the steps to appreciate what you really, really like and do that for a certain amount of time during your routine, it makes all the difference. And I think we're at a stage, I think, Mihir, where this podcast, I think, you know, has helped me, I think, get to that stage. Is I like talking to people. I'm
I
doing
see
that
it.
once a week, at this time, and it really has been making the difference. I think, getting to know different people's routines, getting to know what they are following, getting to release this podcast every week makes the difference for me at this time. And I want to continue doing that. And I hope everybody else listening can get to a place where they can find what they really like and continue doing that in the future. So, Mihir, if you could talk about anything else that we might have missed, you have the stage to yourself.
All right. So super quick. Okay. I'm going to give you my understanding of science and religion and how they meet in the middle. And humans are blind, obsessing over random facts and fighting for no reason when they can really understand this like connection and kind of move forward with life. Okay. So imagine life to be like a gigantic organism. Okay. This organism comprises of all living things that can take the matter around them and use it to survive longer. And the better they survive, the more they're able to improve. And at the center of all these living things are humans. Humans are the longest living thing that has the most amount of time to kind of absorb information and create something out of it. All right. And human beings are able to manipulate their environment to a higher degree than any other creature around them. And for that, life rewards them with more life. And the objective of life is to amass as much life as it can, to extend the possibility of life as much as possible, because life is happy to be alive. It's grateful. And at the edges of life, things keep getting eliminated, things that no longer can continue living. And toward the center are the things that last longer. And
It's somewhat
life,
like, sorry, go ahead. I was just saying it's somewhat like the nuclei, getting to the
exactly.
core of what we mean by creating things around ourselves, making sure that, again, we're doing things that we really like at the core of them.
Not just things that we like. Why do we like to stop, like bring back endangered species? Why do we want to protect all these creatures? Why do we want to protect life in general? It's because life is something that we're so grateful for. We're so grateful for all the things that we can experience, all the things that we can uh, have in this life, and all the things that we can give to the world in a way, because the biggest joy in life is to give something to the world, to other people, and watch it become better, like, in a way, we don't exist. We are just a congregation of ideas that are coming together for a short period of time, of like 100 years, in millennia and millennia of people that are going to exist and do maybe the same things, maybe completely different things from what we're going to do. And all these ideas, you are nothing but all the ideas that you've collected. And then you're going to process all these ideas together and create new ideas and throw them at other people. And you live through these ideas. Whenever you say, like, I don't know, easy, that's me living through you. In a way, when you say easy, you're thinking of me. I know no one else gets this, but I just say easy, and it's just some weird thing that I do, right? But that's an example of an idea. And we are just a congregation. We do whatever we do because of some idea that we got, and these ideas are just going to move forward. And in these ideas, there is an appreciation for life. There is an appreciation in an idea to be able to be an idea. We love uniqueness. We love the ability to kind of like show us something that we've never seen before. That's what life is about, witnessing things that we couldn't have imagined. And then when they come into our imagination, we're grateful. And at the opposite end of this, at the back of our perspective as life, there is death. We know that we are in a tunnel, and eventually this tunnel is going to end. And the thing that we're experiencing inside this tunnel is going to stop. But we don't know when it's going to happen. But we are aware that there is a sequence of actions that leads us away from death. And we are aware that some actions can lead us toward death, right? And now, in these actions, there are actions that you can take from these actions. And basically, your entire life is a series of choices. You get what I mean?
Yeah, good and
So,
bad, definitely.
and these choices are kind of like every living thing has a map of possibilities. This is computer science, by the way. Every living thing has a map of possibilities ahead of it, and it picks individual possibilities in a combination of probability, in a combination of luck, in a combination of behavior, in a combination of skill. But it picks these probabilities and keeps moving forward in life, trying to move away from this separate existence, black hole of end of life called death, which it will eventually get sucked into, but it is constantly trying its best to move away so that it can create like a, a more worthwhile force into life that is moving forward. And
Yeah,
you can almost imagine this like a 3D space. Like there is depth, the origin of this graph, and out of this origin of this graph, there are different axes, and on these axes, there exist all the choices that we're making in life. So, in a way, religion is just a bunch of stories that give us metaphors of us understanding what is good and what is bad. no one is of a religion. Everyone is just alive, and they see religion as this kind of grid line. Like you see, okay, this side is out and this side is in. This side is into death, this side is out of death. And you can make this into an axis, and you just see these axes. If you see an axis parallel to this good axis, you can identify it. You can identify that when someone's bullying someone and someone comes and slaps him, that's like you immediately feel a sense of gratitude. You're like, this man was getting bullied and this man saved him. And why do we feel this gratitude? Because we feel like this is further preservation of life, you know? And religion is about identifying all these axes. And once you can see all these axes and all these parallel lines that create this entire 3D grid, then you can know where you're wanting to go. Like it's almost like no one wants to die, right? Some people want to die and they shouldn't, but
I
it's
don't know,
really
man. I think there's
the
only some. I think we can all relate to this, but there's only a certain amount of time that I probably want to be alive for. I mean, I really, at least personally, I don't want to. I mean, I want to have a memorable life, but at the end of the day, I know that it's going to happen. It's an inevitable at this time, at least, and that's fine. I'm totally acceptable of the fact. I'm like, I'm happy accepting that because I definitely don't want to live past, being at a stage where I'm like dependent on somebody else, let's say, and that could be different factors for everybody.
okay. So I completely understand the state of mind you're in, and I feel like I was in this exact state of mind until I fell in love. All right. Until I fell in love, I thought life goes till the point where life is fun, and the moment it's not fun, you know, let's chill, let's go on a mountain, fight a bear, die, it's over. Go out like a gladiator. But I feel like every second of life is great. I feel like every second of life is great because there will be no point in your life where you will have a will to live, but it would be optimal for you to die. As long as you wish to live, you must live. And as soon as you feel like you don't want to live, you should, take care of it.
I
But
mean, yeah, and that I guess I mentioned this quote before as well, probably on the podcast, but it goes from the book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, and it goes like this: It's he who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow.
exactly.
Something I definitely live by, but at the same time, I think there's a lot to think about, and on love, on loving your passions and going forward in life and making sure that we are again getting to that stage of nirvana where we're happy, where we know what we are doing is something that is not affecting anybody negatively. And I don't know when we're going to be able to get to that, but I think it's something that we want to get to get to a stage where we all our actions are actions that make positive reactions. And I think with that hope, Mihir, I would like to end this show because I think it's on a great high note. And I would like to thank you again for coming on and sharing your experiences. It's been great. And if you could let people know where they can find you to have more conversations about the MMA, about computer science, or anything else that they would like to, where would that be?
I'm at Solid Malik on Snapchat and at Solid Malik on Instagram. But I'm not really into social media. I'm just into my life like a crazy person, and I talk to the people that I care to talk about. And beyond that, I feel like once social media is something big for me, I'll get it. But right now, it's just I just talk to my friends.
Yeah.
But you can reach me at Solid Malik on IG and Snapchat if you have anything to say to me.
Or Twitter. I think that's what you mentioned as well. And what was the handle there?
And on Twitter, I'm at SSolarWolf.
Perfect. And we will take care of that. I will put those links in the description for anybody to follow. And like I said last week, for now, we're going sponsor free. But maybe one day, I'll give you the opportunity to use a discount code by using a keyword related to Kadam. For now, this is it. And I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I certainly did. This is your host, Arjit Singh, and you've been listening to Kadam, the Small Steps podcast. If you found value in this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, let us know how I can make this better. A traditional career is always untraditional. Thanks for listening.